Well, would you look at that? I appear to be back. Oh, man. I tell you what, they're trying to silence us. They're trying to silence you. And guess what? We need to understand all the ways they're doing this and how sinister this is. And folks, if you're not on YouTube, you got to get to YouTube. If you're not on Patreon, you need to get from YouTube to Patreon. There's going to be a time when they ultimately, well, kick me off of here. But for the time being, I am here. I'm with you. And folks, being on Patreon is the best way. So thank you guys over there. Hey, let's get to it. Now, we're going to start this little discussion here, folks. It is about silencing us in every way possible. Now, I'm going to talk about a story that happened over the weekend. It happened in Portland, Oregon. Okay, now I am not a big proponent of standing on a street corner. Not a proponent of that, waving a sign that says John 3:16 or John the Prepared Mind. I'm not into that public display stuff. Some people are. I tell you what, that's called free speech. But what's going on right now in our country is it is being punished. It is being abused, free speech. And we have an example of not only how people are being silenced, but how special interest groups, violent terrorists, and the government are complicit in that silencing effort that goes along with what we're dealing with here in big tech, in the world of the internet, where Google and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube all take turns jacking us around. And I tell you what, folks, I want to do a special thanks to Jolene. When I make a mistake talking about things we want to talk about but aren't allowed to talk about because, you know, it's bad, then Jolene gets to do a lot more work and she gets a bigger headache than usual. Anyway, so thank you to Jolene. Everyone understand that behind the scenes, there's a lot of work going on, a lot of work. A lot of stress. I stress out, man. I just go crazy. Jolene gets a bigger workload, but we're back. We're back. Now, we talk about big tech silencing us. Why? Because they have a story they want to tell. They have an agenda. They have something in mind. Now, see, if it was just a local company, it'd be a local issue. But this is a worldwide issue. Censorship has been going up around the globe for well over a decade, and certainly in America since President Trump was elected. So what do we have? I'm going to go right to the heart of this. There was Christians, nice Christians, who gathered along a Portland waterfront. They got a permit, set up microphones, set up some speakers, and they wanted to have a rally. They gathered to pray with each other over the weekend. And so what happened? That cannot be allowed, folks. What we're calling for, you and I, everyone, in whatever our unique way is, whether it's more spiritual or more secular or more militant, we're calling for action to be taken. Action like, secular, military is to call on politicians to do their job, right? Not do anything violent or dangerous, none of that. But for them to do their job, right, with the military, to put down all of the crime. That's what I mean by militant. All of the crime that's happening in the United States. We want them to do that. We prep, and then we're taking action. Prep to action, right? Food, shelter, water, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, all that stuff. But here's what happened when a bunch of polite, kind, soft-spoken Christians showed up to pray. Well, a bunch of punks showed up wearing paramilitary gear, head to toe, gas masks, goggles, shields in some cases, body armor in some cases, and they attacked violently these Christians, families, women, children. They sprayed them with pepper spray. They took their gear their microphones, their equipment, their speakers, and threw them into the river. Number one, that's littering. Number two, isn't that environmental damage? Number three, isn't that theft? Number four, isn't that aggravated assault? Number five, isn't that interfering with the rights of others? Number six, isn't that a public disturbance? Number seven, right, have I gone far enough? Attempting to incite a riot. The police were called, folks, but the police did not respond. They never showed up. No one in the Antifa world was harassed. No one was stopped. Now, I guarantee if I said, okay, folks, I am John of the Prepared Mind. We have a massive prepper network on the Prepared Mind channel, which has 77,000 subscribers. On the Prepared Mind BC, we have nearly 7,000 subscribers, right? If I called on you guys and said, look, show up at such and such a time and such a place, wear all of your gear, bring all of your favorite toys that are legal, you have to be legal. And we showed up at a left-wing rally, what do you think would happen? The police would be called, the police would show up, and the police would harass us, saying, oh, you represent a threat because you have physical presence, you have political motivation, and you have necessary tools. You see what I'm saying? The components for a crime are necessary. Now, of course, I could say I have no history of violence, period. My civilian life has been free of criminal violence. Can't say that about Antifa. Can't say that about BLM. They have a history of committing acts of violence. That is exactly what they do and what they have. So they show up in force with a motivating agenda and the adequate equipment and tools necessary to perform actions that they always do. Committing acts of violence, interruption. That's what Antifa does. And the police don't show up. The police didn't know this was going to be happening. Or the police so naive in the city of Portland, Oregon, are they so naive to believe that Christians wanting to speak at the waterfront won't attract any Antifa attention? Now, John, how can they know that? Nobody bothers Christians. They just, they're just doing their thing. They're preaching, they're praying, they're talking to God. That's just fine, right? No one's going to bother them. Well, now we have an instance of it, folks, and not just destruction of property, but assaulting children, assaulting women, assaulting men, spraying them with big doses of chemical agents. That is assault. If someone has very sensitive allergies, that can actually cause them to go into respiratory arrest, failure, trauma. I do not understand what they think they're doing in the police department. Do they understand what they're, let's use the word permitting? Now, I'm sure these Christians had to get a permit to do their prayer on the Portland waterfront. Do criminals need permits to show up and commit huge acts of crime? No, they just do what they want, which is a big argument for why people should be allowed to carry constitutionally. That is, why is the government interfering with our Second Amendment right to protect ourselves? We should all be able to carry, as provided by law, self-defense tools, because there are thugs like this. Now let's take it up from here, if we shall. Portland is a known terrorist hotspot for Antifa and BLM. The police know it. The police aren't doing anything about it. The mayor knows it. The mayor is not doing anything about it. When those with power and an oath, an obligation, a duty to perform the tasks prescribed in their job description, and they don't do it, we run into this thing called malfeasance of office. When it's done with the purpose, when crime is allowed and they have the ability to stop it, now I see real collusion, real coordination. Hey, police, don't do anything to these people. Don't stir it up. I don't care if the police are afraid. I don't care what their excuse is. It is wrong. And we're continuing to suffer as a nation, as a planet, under the ridiculous stupidity of these leftists. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? Right? A lot of people say, well, what can I do? Right? I'm just a person. The time is coming, folks, when it's not just going to be good enough to turn the other cheek. In fact, you only turn the other cheek to your brother. You don't turn your cheek to your enemy. You don't turn your back on the enemy either. There's a passage, I believe it's in the book of Luke. It says, sell your cloak and buy a sword. Right? Act ye like men. That time is coming. That time is coming. These Antifa punks are just that, punks. A dozen of them can come out and interrupt 50, 100, 1,000 people because that's what they do. That's all they have, folks. Police were called and they did not respond. The mayor did nothing. The governor has done nothing. And the president of the United States, Shifty G. Biden, who changes his mind on everything, flip-flops back and forth like all of our other favorite people in high political office. What I cannot abide is this continuing. Now, I'm not anywhere near Portland. I'm not anywhere near Montgomery. I'm not anywhere near Tallahassee. I'm not anywhere near Louisville or Nashville. I'm not anywhere near any of these places where these scumbags are. But if they end up showing up wherever I happen to be for the day, there's going to be trouble because I will not allow them to hurt others. Right? When is America going to stand up? When is America going to wake up? When are we all going to have no choice, folks? I don't want any of this crap. I didn't ask for this shit. Did you? No, we didn't. But here it is. It is coming, folks. They are silencing you. See, this is not only an attempt to show that Antifa runs Portland, at least until they become unuseful idiots, but they are being used to silence, to punish. They're being used to make sure we don't have a voice, that our side of the story doesn't come out, all the way down to something as simple as a prayer. Simple as prayer. They want everything silenced, folks. That's why they killed the Prepared Mind channel for the last 2 weeks. And we've done everything we can to stay on, and they silenced our third channel. All 3 Prepared Mind channels were down. We're down. Now we're back. They want us silenced because they know our story, our facts are real, and they have value and they have weight. What I mean by weight is people hear the truth and they know it. And then they can make a decision that's best for them, their friends, their family. And they don't like that. The mainstream media doesn't like that. Antifa doesn't like that. They hate that. What that tells me is I need to get up and I need to keep talking. I need to keep sounding off. I need to keep in this fight. And I pray that you do as well. Because there is no just being quiet and they'll just go away. Right? They're not a bear that'll go somewhere else and look for berries and nuts. Right? Antifa isn't Bigfoot. It's going to wander back into the woods and be lost for decades. That's not how this is working. The more they're allowed to get away with it, the more they will commit these heinous crimes. And they are heinous. They're not these crimes they're committing they're not Robin Hood. They're not helping anyone. To glamorize it or lionize them as some sort of troops for good is absolutely ridiculous. The fact that the mainstream media doesn't touch it tells you they're complicit also. They're not touching this. I don't hear any mainstream news saying we've got to stop this radical, militant, violent, Marxist, communist, terrorist group that won't even allow people to publicly speak without attacking them and spraying them with chemicals. I tell you what, let the Proud Boys attack people. Hey, look out, yeah, the Proud Boys are evil. What? Who are they? Where are they? They're nowhere. They've been silenced. Where's the Oath Keepers? They've been silenced. Where's the militias? They've been silenced. They silenced them with Oklahoma City and public shaming back in the 90s. Now they're using internet shaming, woke shaming. They're using cancel culture. They're using the mainstream media. They're using political power. They're using the FBI. They're using these thugs on the street. See what we're up against? And there's no need to prep. Nothing to worry about here, folks. Move along? I don't think so. Get prepared now. Chance favors the prepared mind. I'll be back. Should be the zoo tonight. Keep an eye out for the notices, the posts, the messages, the emails, notifications. We are going to be back, and they can't stop us, folks. All they can do is interfere. They're cowards. They're weaklings. And I think I've said enough. Godspeed. Semper Fi.